Hello, everybody. Oh, my lord. Guess I have a slur.
Too many drinks.
Yeah, apparently. Too many joints. Too many joints, you mean.
Oh yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to the PCM Hockey Podcast. I am Payton Macculloch, and today I am with my good old buddies, Kelvin Hector, and also as well, Mark Jones, my two good buddies. And I'm very excited to start up this podcast with you guys.
Absolutely. Welcome. I was going to say welcome aboard. Well, I guess I should say thank you for welcoming me aboard. Yeah, glad to be here.
I'm gonna say the same. Thanks, Peyton. Pleasure to be here as well.
So I am from State, as you guys know, if you guys watch my YouTube channel on Payton on the radio. I'm in TV. Also, my buddy Kelvin, he's also in State right now, and he's doing broadcast news and stuff like that. And my good old buddy Mark, he's from my old town in Chetwynd. He's working at PCM. So let's get right into talking about it. As right now, as we're making this podcast, the Tampa Bay Lightning are facing off against the New York Islanders, and they're in second overtime. Who do you guys who's your picks to win this game tonight?
Who do I want versus who do I think? I'll just stick with who do I think will win it. I'm going to flip a coin. I think Tampa's going to find a way to get this done after losing last year in round one. I think they're on a mission here, and I mean, there's no guarantee, but I think they're going to do it tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna side with Tampa as well. Just watching this second overtime right now, it looks like the Islanders are just really on their last leg. They're trying really hard to send this to a game 6, but I don't really see a way out for them. Tampa's just out shooting them and still look like they have a bit of energy left in their gas tank. So at some point in time, I think Tampa's gonna carry this game to the end and see Dallas in the Cup Finals.
Well, especially how good the defense is right now for Tampa Bay as well. Like playing of course, what John Cooper does is playing those 7 defenders, and they just have so many great D men on that defensive core. But they are really overwhelming New York throughout this entire series, and you could really, by just watching some of the games and containing Matt Barzal, who is the biggest piece of that offense for New York. Which, I mean, they don't score very much goals during the regular season, and it's been that same issue coming in against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they have not been able to get by Vasilevsky.
Yeah, and as we speak, like you say, here's Tampa setting up. So obviously, by the time this airs, we'll know the outcome. But
yeah, who knows how long this will go?
It's looking dangerous. I mean, nothing would surprise me. I mean, it sounds like I'm sitting on the fence, but I'm impressed with Barry Trotz, and I think he's a very good coach. And you know, he's grown from the time he was in Nashville. And it's funny. Side note: he's following, or the two follow each other around. Trotz leaves Nashville. Laviolette lands up in Nashville. Laviolette's let go. Trotz lands up in Washington. Now Laviolette today lands up in Washington. So the point is, I think Trotz is a very good coach, but whether they can do it. Oh, I thought that was about it there, right there. But I don't want to hog this. But I'm still gonna say I think it's gonna be Tampa. They're gonna find a way to win this one tonight. So.
Yeah, and Peter Laviolette getting hired by Washington as well was pretty big news. A lot of people don't like the signing, though. A lot of people were trying to side towards Gerard Gallant, the former coach of Vegas there.
Yeah, you know, I think. Sorry if I don't want to hog this here. No, you're laughing, but I'm gonna laugh. I'm gonna jump in here. Just say this much. At one point, I've earned some respect for Travis Green in Vancouver, and the tie-in is this. At one point in the season, I said, okay, if he didn't make the playoffs, he would be gone already. Now he's bought himself some time. I thought at one point Vancouver maybe needed to, and it may still happen, upgrade to not just any proven coach, but a proven coach with the right mindset. And with Laviolette, I mean, everywhere he's gone, Carolina, he wins a cup. I think he was in with the Islanders his first gig, and I don't remember what happened there, but Carolina wins a cup. Then he gets to Philly, I think 2-3 years later, he's at the cup final. Then he goes to jump ahead, and I think it was after that he's in Nashville, and he gives Nashville. That one still puzzles me because Nashville had their best overall, like all kinds of records, and this year they get rid of him. bring in New Jersey's coach who had been fired, and I just could not understand either of those decisions. I think it's good Washington gets somebody in that's proven that he can get to the final, and although it's hard to believe, like that's 14 years ago he won the Cup, he's done it. And I just think it brings credibility. I was not surprised that they got rid of Reardon, because Reardon basically kind of was the heir apparent, I guess, after they didn't sign Trotz and they sort of fouled that up. And I just think it's a good move. Gallant, maybe, but if you looked at the two of them, I think what's his name, Laviolette has had more. You can edit that out if you want. What's his name? Laviolette has more success.
And I think you're very right there, Mark. Just the fact that I'm gonna parallel these things, because another coach signing, well, not even a signing, but the Flames took the interim tag off of Jeff Ward, and I had people ask me, well, what do you think about that? Should they not have gone for a Gerard Gallant or one of the bigger name coaches out on the market? And honestly, teams like Calgary and Washington, they're not disproven. They're good teams. There's nothing, I wouldn't put any red flags with them. So they don't need a coach to come in and absolutely change everything. I think they just need, a steady coach who's proven. And in Washington's case, it's perfect getting Laviolette to come in and help out there. And then, like I said, with the Flames, it's kind of a similar situation. Jeff Ward came in after the whole Peter scandal, and the Flames didn't falter because of that. They just kept on going. And honestly, the bottom line guys for the Flames performed really well, and that was an issue coming in the last few seasons. And now I think Jeff Ward just has to look at the top line guys and hopefully figure that out. And if he's able to do that, he'll be a good fit for Calgary.
I mean, he even got more out of Milan Lucic, which fucking Tom McClellan could never do. My lord. But I'm over here with Dave Tippett as my head coach, so I'm pretty happy with that. Even though he was kind of an idiot during some of the playoffs with fucking throwing out Mike Smith as their goalie. Like, who does that? Why throw out Mike Smith, the worst goalie in the league, in Game 1 against the Blackhawks? Anyways, horrible idea. But let's jump towards
loyalty. I think there was loyalty there with him, because I believe they were both in Dallas together way back.
Yeah, they were. They were. Dave and Arizona as well.
Arizona. So usually it's that old thing. You'll hitch your ride to kind of the one you know. And I mean, I still think Smith is pretty good, but I mean, obviously over time, I mean, players change and that. And I mean, as far as the Calgary situation, I'm not an expert. I mean, my loyalty is to Vancouver. I don't know if we want to pause for a second here, as it's a close call there as the game continues. With Calgary, I'm not an expert on it. My loyalties are in Vancouver, but I will say this. Calgary has had so many coaches. If you go back to Bob Artley, and then you have, after that, they brought in a former assistant, Glenn, I'm going to say it was Gullickson or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, then they get rid of him after 2 seasons. He makes the playoffs 1 year, doesn't the next. They get rid of him. They bring in Peters. I thought Peters was going well, and then there was the known, I guess, the allegations. I'll just put it that way. So then they bring in Ward. So how many coaches do you keep going through? I think there reaches a point. Yeah, Ward, I think, made some, from what I recall, some judgment. Didn't they blow a 3-0 lead in the series deciding game?
Oh, sorry to interrupt you. The Islanders just pulled it off. They're gonna force a game.
Oh, you're ahead of me. I missed you. You're
way ahead of me.
A second ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm watching live on TV right now. We're gonna see another game between Tampa Bay and.
Shit.
2-on-1.
It extends.
Cross-ice pass, just like easiest put in the net finisher you could get.
I just want to see this replay here in a second. I think I'm behind one of you guys. I guess it was. Calvin had the first read of it. I think whoever said that, I didn't recognize which voice it was.
That was me. A little excited over that upset.
Damn, bro.
I just want to see the replay on this. Yeah, the Islanders survive, and that doesn't completely surprise me. Yeah, and Eberle's been a good addition there from
I fucking love Ebbs.
Edmonton.
I love Ebbs. That was a stupid move by us as well, man. And you know what? I feel you, Calvin.
So 27, I don't know who that is, flipped it off the boards, got it back to himself.
27. Oh, that was Lee.
Yeah. They waited for the opportunity. Is that Eberle? Number 7 puts it in?
Yeah. Lee cross ice to Eberle on the right side and just was able to put it past Vasilevsky.
The Islanders are now going to be in Tampa's head, because it's that old thing. oh, well, we've got 3 chances to win this when you're up 3-1. If they ever think that, that's the most dangerous situation because it's that 4th win. And so now it's, one more win, and then it's an all stakes in Game 7. So, the pressure is on Tampa now because they don't want to see this slip away.
Especially since they don't have Braden Point in the lineup either. That will be a huge weak point. I don't know if he's going to be back in the lineup for next game, but he wasn't in the lineup for this game for Tampa Bay. What you laughing about?
Is Thomas Greiss in net for the Islanders? So they're showing his celebration afterward, doing a big snow angel belly on the ice.
Oh, no. Semyon Varlamov was the goalie
Varlamov in net. Okay, well, Varlamov just
did a fucking
dove on the ice.
And speaking of the Islanders, I think Lou Lamoriello won GM of the year or whatever, and good on him.
See, I don't agree with that. I'm going to put this out here. I'm very pissed off about that. Peter Holland did not get one fucking vote. Are you shitting me? A fucking team that was bottom barrel. Oh, I just seen Semyon Varlamov bail, but it's so stupid that Peter Holland did not get one single vote, but Lou Lamoriello, who has not really done very much for the Islanders this year, it's just the prospects have improved and stuff like that. Peter Holland did so much for the Oilers, and we got close to the playoffs position, but yet Lou Lamoriello, for doing dick all just for getting his team to the conference finals, gets the fucking trophy.
And I don't know if that's based on regular season. I don't know. I think my think is, remember, what was it, 2 years ago? I mean, it just seems the curse with Toronto, and I'm not a Toronto fan, but it does make you shake your head. They grabbed Tavares. Tavares, ticks off the Islanders' faithful, but then I think that's when Lamoriello came in, and he's rebuilt with, look at I think they've gone through a few different goalies for whatever the reason. They lost Leonard, but he's come out, and look at Leonard. Leonard leaves there. I think he was in Buffalo on the Islanders. He's gone, and who's still surviving right now? The Islanders. Vegas is out. It's just who's out. Tavares moves, he's out in the first. I think the play-in series.
You know what?
That's
round. The surprising part about New York, and they lost Tavares, they lost one of their star players, and now they're here, the conference finals, and the Maple Leafs didn't even make the playoffs. That's amazing.
That's that old thing about you can have a bunch of individuals, and I'm not an expert on Toronto's makeup, but I'm just going to say you can have maybe not the right mix, not the the lunch bucket crew or whatever, and then maybe that's the issue in Toronto. I mean, not to focus on them, but that's what I think maybe where Lamoriello was, because I mean, they've had a lot of. I mean, I don't know. I think they're. I don't know if they've really been tight on budgets for a while. I don't know. I think they just somehow. People must have voted for him because they just figured, okay, he went there. And, yeah, there's a lot of other good candidates. But I guess I kind of thought, yeah, it kind of makes sense because I think he's had to overcome a lot of obstacles, namely, like I say, the Tavares thing. You lose a guy that you've groomed and you brought up, and he leaves, and it leaves a big hole. But, yeah, right now they're 2 wins away from going to their first Stanley Cup in
a long time, since Trottier era.
What's that, about 35 years? Holy crap! So
it's gonna be steep. It's still a big hill to climb, though.
It is.
Playing one of the best teams in the league, the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's not necessarily an open and shut comeback series here for the Islanders. They're really gonna have to work hard if they want to get those 2 games and win Game 6 and force a Game 7. It's especially in that bubble, they're separating the games by a day. They get a day in between, but that day probably seems like ages for the players as they just want to, get back out there and just finish off the series.
Yeah, the next game will be Thursday at 6 p.m. whatever my time, I guess, for myself, Calgary time. Mountain Standard. Thank you.
You're Mountain Daylight, aren't you? We're Mountain Standard. I think you're Mountain Daylight right now. So
I think so. We're 10 here right now. You're probably 9, right?
Yeah, I'm at 9. So you're an hour ahead.
Yeah, we're an hour ahead.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Anyways, so let's talk about the Dallas versus Vegas Golden Knights series, because this series was an entertaining one. Because for me, I didn't want Dallas winning because of Corey Perry. First of all, just don't bring up for an Oilers fan 2016-17 where Ryan Kessler had his fucking glove on Cam Talbot's pad and they did not overturn the goal somehow. Still don't understand why that was a goal. But I really didn't want Corey Perry going back to the Stanley Cup Finals, and I rather would have Vegas move on. But Anton Khudobin, I don't have any words to explain this guy, but just wow, how great was he over that span of this series, and especially even during Colorado and stuff as well.
Yeah, sorry, I'll jump in here because
You might
Mark
have to
usually
add.
goes right
I
after
was
that.
half distracted and I missed part of your question there, so I'm sorry. You might have
Well,
to edit.
he's asking about like the performance at Khudobin for the Stars. I mean, he jumped in there when Bishop wasn't there for the call. I think Bishop was injured in training camp or just before the start of the playoffs, and so who do you go to? You got to go to your backup. There's no other choice, and past the trade deadline, they can't go out and acquire another goalie. So he's kind of thrown into that role. Not that he is a backup quality goaltender. He's proving that he's starting caliber, and just his prime now reminds me of, I guess, Brizgalov from when he was in his prime. Just kind of more of a quiet goalie, but you see the hardworking, getting those wins and just stepping in when he needs to, and he's just quiet. He's not very outspoken. I know he's Russian, so he's probably not even that great on the English, but it's fun to watch him play in net because he's playing with his heart on his sleeve, and it shows in every game. You can see the emotion.
Oh, I would agree with you. If I can jump in, I was just going to say, I mean, my full attention went to the Vancouver series. First of all, my take on, obviously that's a series ago now, but I mean, my point is Vegas, this is just mine. I know I'm not probably popular here in town, but I mean, I know there's a connection with Derek Eglund, which for some reason he was always a scratch in the series. I don't know enough about him. I don't know what
He's
was
a bum.
going on.
He's a bum.
At that part, but
everyone in chat was like, "Oh, Derek Eglund, yeah, he's such a good player, yay!" Yeah, he's not. He's an AHLer.
So I tried to have a fun thing and tried to bring his mom, get her to call me on the show and call me even I was recording anything. I got no call back, so it's like whatever. I mean, I've never met the lady. My point was this: Vegas, after being, I mean, for any of us here, I think our favorite teams. What we know, we have an Edmonton fan, we have me, a Vancouver fan. Calvin, you're a fan of who?
Well, the Calgary Flames, big time. That's where I grew up. So
we're all, if no cup for Vancouver in NHL modern times, Edmonton, we're going back to 1990. Calgary, we're going back to, I guess, 89. I mean, yeah. I think it's fair to say before either of you were around. So the fact of the matter is that, I mean, I have a problem with, Vegas did very well the first year, but I just, it's if you can put together a great team and they were able to work it, great. But I'm sorry, I'm not that disappointed that they had to suffer because they kind of, I just call it a little bit of arrogance, when you get in and you just assume you're entitled to, get to the cup final every year. And, I'm sorry, there's teams that have, never won a cup like Vancouver. There's teams that have gone 20, 30 years, never won a cup. I have no problem with Dallas. I don't like some of their players there, but out of the teams that were the option of Vegas and Dallas, I was cheering, and I will cheer for Dallas now. I might have mixed allegiances if the Islanders get there again, but I think I'm putting my vote behind Dallas, and I've said so on Twitter, Mark on the Air 88, by the way. So the fact of the matter is that I just think, the Dallas has found a way to get it done. They battled back from 2-0 yesterday. I was stunned. I turned off the game, and the next thing I see, it's 2-2 going to overtime. I turned it on and was able to see whatever it was the first overtime. I guess they won it. So
all I have to say is Curvanta. Fucking Curvanta, or what the fuck the Finn's name is. This kid's insane, man. Power play goal to tie the game up. And he scores a hattie against Colorado in Game 7 and then scores the overtime winning goal to send Dallas off to the next round. Also, Thatcher Demko got into the heads of the Vegas Golden Knights as well. And
that was clearly stated by Peter DeBoer in his press conference after Vegas got kicked out by Dallas. He even said Demko got to Vegas just offensively. They dried up as soon as Demko shut the door on them, and that just goes to prove that it could be Vancouver. It could have been Vancouver against Dallas just as easily, but unfortunate for them, it's just the offense dried up on Vancouver's end against Vegas, and then Vegas goes on to play Dallas. But Dallas is a better team offensively and on the back end, and
you know what?
DeBoer even said it. Offense dried up.
And Dallas really, it really did dry up for Vegas. And like Kudubin played so big every time he was out there. And Dallas really did play harder than what Vegas did in a lot of the games. And just the way that they were scoring goals. And Guryanov's beautiful overtime winner. Like, that was a beautiful goal from Klingberg to Guryanov. And I mean, he has the Russian blood into him. So probably the one-timers are like next level with Russians. The Dallas Stars really did deserve that series against the Vegas Golden Knights with the way they played and the way they dealt with Ryan Reeves and stuff. Like Corey, like all the grinders that Dallas had, they stepped up. Like Dickinson, I've seen him multiple times be in the face of Ryan Reeves, which I think was a huge issue with Vancouver. Was they took Reeves too seriously with Roussel and stuff like that. They took a lot of dumb penalties for Vancouver's side of things.
And the other thing I was going to say is, speaking of that win last night for Dallas, I mean, I did feel the look of almost just, I'm going to say it, anguish, maybe that's the right word, maybe not, on Peter DeBoer's face when that penalty was taken. I mean, clearly it was a puck out of play, delay of game, and then the young guy, the player, I don't know who it was, but he takes that penalty. Yeah, and he just, I did, the human side, I kind of for a moment did feel sorry for him. I mean, anytime you lose a game in overtime on a situation where you've given the other team a power play, I mean, it wasn't a lazy penalty, it was just bad luck, and that's the luck of the game. I mean, and that's a tough pill for them to swallow, I'm sure, and I'm sure, again, another team that changes coaches so far. I mean, what's the record on these teams that have changed coaches partway through? I mean, Dallas, it was a different situation. I'm blanking on the name of the coach there.
Jim Montgomery.
So that was a situation where he stepped aside, I think, for personal reasons and what have you. That was there. And I'm happy for Boness, who's more than paid his dues. But look at these. Apart from that, I mean, New Jersey changes. Well, the teams that moved on, I mean, Nashville got at least to the play-in. I think that's as far as they got. They didn't proceed, very far. Okay, Vegas gets to the third round. Sometimes it's worked. I mean, you look at teams like Pittsburgh, I think twice with two different coaches, they've won the cup after changing coaches. It can work, but it can also make you say, why did you do it? And I mean, again, you look at the situation with, Gallant was relieved of duties. Well, he might be laughing now because they bring in a guy that was relieved from San Jose. Not saying he's a bad coach, but, obviously it's not just the coach that gets it done. But I'm just saying, sometimes these decisions that are made to Nashville, they get rid of Laviolette. Well, now Laviolette's hired by Washington. I mean, sometimes some of the decisions, it's not as easy as saying, oh, we'll fire the coach. That's not the automatic panacea, but a lot of times these teams think that, and it's a lot more to it than that. And maybe, again, it's a little bit of luck. You change your coach, and it just happens. The team rolls along. Right?
I think in the grand scheme of things, though, it's a lot easier for a team to point the finger at a coach than it is to say a franchise player and be like, well, they're not a fit here. They're not a fit here, even though they've been the backbone of this team for X amount of years. Case in point, Flames fans right now aren't too happy with the performance of Johnny Gaudreau, but he's been in the league since 2013, I believe. I think it's 2013 when he broke out. And since then he's been producing like normal numbers in the regular season. It's just come playoff time, there's not that click. But is it easy to get rid of Gaudreau? No, it's probably easier to get rid of your head coach. I mean, case in point, you were saying earlier, Mark, about Glenn Gulutzan. We had one winning season with him, his first year with us, playoffs, and the next year they missed the playoffs, and so they went in another direction. Well, it's just. That's the way it is. It's a coaching carousel in the NHL. So unless you're producing constant numbers, making the playoffs every year, generally speaking, you're going to have probably 30% of the teams changing coaches at least every 1 or 2 years. It's never it's a thankless job being a coach. Just you never know how long you're going to be in one market.
And as an Oilers fan, I know how many coaches and how quick it could change. Like, I mean, since we had Pat Quinn, Tom Rennie, Ralph Kruger, Dallas Eakins, Todd Nelson, Tom McClellan, Ken Hitchcock, and Dave Tippett. No matter how much a coach has like really good pedigree, your team will never do good unless they buy into that coach's system, like what the Dallas Stars have done with Bonus, and especially with the New York Islanders with Trotz, and especially the Tampa Bay Lightning with John Cooper. If your team doesn't buy into the system that you're playing in, your coach is useless. The coach can only do so much for you, which is one of the reasons why the Oilers played so well with, of course, Dave Tippett being the head coach of the team this year, which I'm hoping continues next year.
I would think it would. I mean, I can't see them changing it up that quickly. I mean, this was an unusual season with this whole, they had to do the play-in, which I think was the only solution you could have with an unbalanced, schedule paused. And people will complain about it. Well, it wasn't perfect, but
I liked it.
I think it was the best. Yeah, I think it was the best way to resolve, as best as you could. You have a play-in series, and you try to figure it out. And ironically, some of the top place teams may have suffered for it because they're playing this round robin, and I think they just kind of thought, oh, well, we'll go through the motions, and they were a little bit surprised by maybe some of their opponents. But I mean, as far as the coaching, a perfect example of coaching, I mean, John Tortorella, who I thought was at the time, it was I thought, oh, interesting, they're going to get rid of Vigneault in Vancouver, because I thought it's going back to 13, 14. But the thing was, the best probably that he did in a sort of a, I'm going to call it Mike Keenan light. Mike Keenan, you guys wouldn't remember this, but Mike Keenan was in Vancouver, and it was a disastrous time, just the way it was more about what I call bedside manner. It was the way he handled stuff. Like, okay, trade Trevor Linden. He was authorized to trade. He wasn't really the GM, but he was authorized interim to make some deals and stuff. And ultimately, it led to some of the good players that we had years later. Tortorella didn't have those powers, but he was outspoken. I mean, we remember probably the Calgary where he wanted to storm into the dressing room on Hartley and Vancouver and stuff. But the thing was, he used the phrase, and I'm paraphrasing, the team here is stale. And that was probably bang on, because at that point, we were 3 years past Vancouver's 2011 run, and they didn't really reinvigorate the team. And that ultimately cost Gillis his job first, and then they decided, okay, this experiment's not going to work. We're going to clear out Tortorella after 1 year, which is almost unprecedented. It's happened, I think, one other time in Vancouver history. They had an ex-Kamloops Blazers coach back in the 80s, and he lasted 20 games. He was supposed to be the greatest thing, and ironically, they could have had Mike Keenan. Keenan went to Philly. They hired this guy, and it didn't work out. It was Bill LaForge, so late Bill LaForge. The point is, there's times that the coach does bear the responsibility. There's times that the coach, maybe even only short term. I think Vancouver is where they are now because of the gong show that was there when they fired Gillis. Trevor Linden takes over, then he evaluates, and they fire Tortorella. And yeah, they went through what was his name, Desjardins, which I don't know about him as NHL caliber at this point. But the point is, the coach can bring you good success, and if you buy into the system, and there's a lot of moving pieces with it. You need the right talent, you need the right philosophy, and again, it's not about a bunch of stars on a team. Like we look at Toronto, there's something wrong there. It's unreal. They talk about legacies of not winning a cup. They've gone longer than Vancouver. Vancouver's almost closing in on, I think it was 67? I think the stats would say that they won a cup. That's 53 years.
Oh my Lord, Toronto's, I don't know. They got something wrong with them.
Their best years were with Pat Quinn. In my memory, Pat Quinn there.
Yeah.
That was their best years, but they just couldn't get over the hump. But anyways, yeah.
Toronto's never really been able to get over the hump, especially over these past couple of years of just losing. Of course, embarrassing in the play-in rounds, losing to Columbus, and then of course Boston a couple times. It's just playoff failures, and I mean I can't really explain too much because as an Oilers fan, we were out of the playoffs for like 10 years in a row. So we made a record, and we even changed the fucking lottery with how many times we were bailing for the first overall pick. So we were rule changers as bottom feeders. Whenever we made it to the playoffs, and you know what, the reason why the Oilers were so bad is because we never had leadership. We never had a coach that actually stayed on the team. Like when Nail Yakupov when we drafted him, of course, he was just a total gong show, but he got along really well with Ralph Kruger. Ralph Kruger was our coach during 2012-13, now the coach for the Buffalo Sabres there. And Nail Yakupov became really good friends with Ralph Kruger and was buying in to his system. And Nail Yakupov, I think, had one of his better years when Ralph Kruger was the coach for the Edmonton Oilers. And let me just bring up the stats. In the shortened season, I'm pretty sure that was the 2012-13 season. That was Yakupov's first, and he had 17 goals, 14 assists, and 31 points in 48 games, which is one of his better seasons that he had with his team, especially in his rookie year. After that, he kind of fucking dropped the ball. But coaches are definitely a big thing for playoff success and stuff like that, as we've seen from the Flames there with Jeff Ward. I think they're only going to go up with Jeff Ward on the team. Now, they're definitely going to have to make a couple moves to improve the team, and that's the same with the Oilers, because our 5-on-5 play was absolute horrendous, and the Flames, it's just they weren't able to keep that lead that they did have on the playoff series, and it seemed like watching them, they almost looked like they gave up near the end there against Dallas.
I think more or less just from watching and almost in tears after seeing that 3-0 lead disappear in that game 6. Oh, I hate thinking about it, but just looking back at it, the Flames just need to play a full 60 minutes. Now, it's easier said than done to do that, but in the grand scheme of things, they're really good at pushing, but for very small periods of time. Like their puck possession, it wavers and this is just a general blanket statement saying if you have high puck possession, well, you're more likely to win the game. But in most cases, that's how you win games, is just your puck possession numbers. And seeing those last couple of games against Dallas, they could not hold on to the puck. They kept losing it in the neutral zone. They're just playing a lot of dump and chase, and then they weren't able to go get the puck. It was Dallas beating them every time, and so that dries up your offense. And that's something I think that correlates into the first line with Monahan and Gaudreau and Lindholm, is that you got Gaudreau there, but he doesn't have the size to go press on the boards. He has to either carry the puck in the zone or dump and chase, and then you need the support from Lindholm or Monahan, and that's not always available. And so I can see that correlating to why there was so many turnovers and just the puck possession numbers being way down for the Flames in those final games against Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Just to switch it on something from, speaking of Calgary, but to sort of more to the operation side, where does it stand now, just from somebody outside the market there? Are they getting, that's been approved to build that new, whatever it's going to be, NHL rink, and then there's some other things attached to it. Is that not correct?
They're calling, I guess they're calling it more of like an event center than just an arena. They're hoping to make it more of like a whole kind of, they can do concerts and shows and all sorts of dealios there. But yeah, I think it was slated to be finished by 2024, if I'm not mistaken. So it is in the go, and they're already in the process. They've torn down or started tearing down the old corral. So I hate to see that.
Is it going to be where the corral? It was. Did get to go in the corral. I don't know if you grew up there. I did get to go in there, and that was, of course, Calgary's first home when they came to the NHL temporarily years ago. Is that where they're going to put it then? Is in the old corral spot?
So that area of the Stampede grounds is kind of in the back. They're not even tearing the corral down for the new arena. They're tearing that down because they're expanding the BMO Center, which is their convention center. They're expanding the convention center into where the corral was. The new arena is actually going a little bit behind where the Saddle Dome is currently located, in an area called Victoria Park. So it's kind of and they're going to do a whole redevelopment and have hotels and restaurants. Not quite like the Ice District, but they're gonna try and make it a hub for events and restaurants and all that downtown Calgary.
You talk about that's Edmonton, I guess. Is that correct?
Yeah, sorry. When I say the Ice District, that's what they've built in Edmonton.
Yeah, I did get to see that. I was up there through. I won't go into it and make this about me, but I had to go up for an emergency eye situation, and I was sent to Alberta, given where I'm located in BC. And I thought, oh, look, I can see Rogers Place. This wasn't quite the way I thought I would see it, from where I was at the hospital. But anyways, the point was that's quite an amazing development up there where they're holding all this bubble stuff. But yeah, Calgary, I mean, that's going to be interesting because Calgary is going to, obviously a new building, probably some new revenue opportunities, and it'll be interesting to see how they can put things together. Because you're right. I mean, that's probably another reason why Jeff Ward survived, because, they made it through. There's teams that didn't even make it out of the first, with the play-in series. I guess, like, if I'm remembering correctly, Toronto, where Calgary at least moved into the first round of the real playoffs, right? I don't count the play-ins really as playoffs. I say, okay, once you're to the best of sevens, then those are the playoffs. And at least Calgary did get there, and Edmonton did too as well. Is that correct?
No, we lost to Chicago in the play-in rounds.
Oh, in the
Chicago upset Edmonton, yeah.
Yeah, we got upsetted there.
Did Calgary play Chicago in the first round and knock out Chicago?
No, so it was Calgary, Winnipeg in the play-in rounds. That was the best of 5, and Calgary won in 4 games.
Yeah, because Scheifele was injured.
5 games, if I'm not mistaken. Was it 5 games, Payton?
No, it was 4 games. Chicago beat us in 4 games.
I thought that went to the deciding game.
No, sadly not. Sadly not.
And then Calgary went on, obviously, to play Dallas in the first round, and how that panned out. I'm not going to be too sad if Dallas goes on to win a cup, because then I can at least say the Flames got knocked out by the cup champions.
That's true.
It's a lot less of a blow when you can say that, rather than, oh yeah, I lost to a team that then went in the second round and got knocked out.
It's a funny stat. You should look back at Vancouver, how many years in the first round it was often said they pushed the eventual cup winner the hardest. Like if you look back at history, again, ancient history, 89, Vancouver took it to 7 games, Calgary wins the first round. Vancouver played Colorado in 96, Colorado's first cup after a tough, relatively not that tough of a series, I don't think, in 96. But it's interesting, you're right, if a team can sort of run that eventual cup, lose to that eventual cup champion, it is kind of making you think, well, if things fell, maybe we could have, at least we gave them a run. So you're right. I mean, and I hold no shame just as a Vancouver fan and not hiding that I'm a Vancouver fan. Am I disappointed? The Vancouver, I kind of hope that as I said on Peace FM, a blatant plug on my hockey report the other day, my first chance to talk about it after I was off because of this situation with my eye and came back. I said, you know what? Is it disappointing Vancouver didn't make it beyond where they did? Yeah. Am I happy in a sense? I'm going to say with an asterisk beside it. Yeah, but, I'm tired of always being, it's good experience because Vancouver had been out of the playoffs for 5 years. So, it would have been quite a run to get in after the first time in 5 years and run all the way and get to the cup final, let alone winning the cup. But, it is good experience. I think all the teams that went through this year, and I think the thing that's been lost in all this is the mental toughness. Like when people ridiculed, and I went on the record on Twitter, ridiculed Tuukka Rask.
Oh, that was horrible.
Well, because you're asking now players to go into a bubble. It may seem all glorious, but you've got no significant others. You're and I'm keeping this family friendly, but I'm saying you're not around your kids. You're not around if you have kids. Like I can't imagine what it's like. It may look all great. Oh, you get to stay in a hotel, or you're getting paid millions, and blah blah blah. But it's a very different dynamic than say, okay, you play 2 games on the road, you go home, you're going to get to wake up with your kids or your wife or whatever. And I think, this is going to be it's a weird Stanley Cup. And when they talked about this how this was going to be, I couldn't quite fathom it. But Jim Houston, who I had on, did say it could be a very good, I'm paraphrasing, playoff run. And yeah, no fans, but this is taking mental toughness. And I think there's some stories starting to come out about, the mental toughness. I think there was something today about Dallas, maybe on NHL.com, about how they bonded, in terms of they've kind of supported each other. And it's different dynamics this year with this whole no fans, no family around, all this stuff. So
Sorry, I'm gonna jump as a like going into broadcasting, being a broadcasting student. You just said you talked to Jim Houston. Is he? Do the broadcasters have to stay in the bubble? I've been curious about that.
I haven't got clarity on that because I asked. I'm not trying to name drop, but Brendan Batchelor, who's the radio play-by-play on Vancouver, I had him on, and they're doing it all from the radio guys. I think he's been actually doing this last series, the Western Conference. I think he's probably out now. The radio guys were doing it on monitors from their home city. Like they were just saying the Vancouver Canuck Broadcast Center, and they were actually, I think, in the Rogers Radio Studios in Vancouver. I don't know why they didn't. Maybe it's a cost thing. I don't know. As far as the TV as to where those guys are, they're in Edmonton, but where they're staying, I don't know.
I think they are, because there is like a little when they showed Jim Houston and stuff like that, they show them up in the higher ups in the Rogers place and has their whole setup in the arena. So I'm guessing they are staying in the bubble as well. That's what I'm guessing.
I know there is separation. Like I thought it was interesting yesterday. I don't know if you noticed the presentation of the trophy. First it showed Bill Daly with his mask on. Then the next thing, maybe for the picture, he didn't have his mask on. And I kind of thought there's that separation where you see even like, I think like, for example, for Vancouver, I can only speak to, again, not to make this all Vancouver, Jim Benning, the GM, it would show him in the route, in the press box or whatever with the mask on. But my understanding was they, in a lot of cases, didn't even interact like physically with the team. Like there was a separation, just like you'd see the trainers on the beach with masks, but the coaches didn't have. So I'm not sure of all the dynamics, where some of those guys, how far they're allowed in and how close they are. That's in terms of where they stay in the bubble, or are they staying in the bubble, that kind of thing. So good question. It might be something I might try to get an answer on, and I can let you know. I'll see if I can remember to ask about that, and let me make a note to that while you guys talk away about trying to find that out in a roundabout way. So.
Yeah, that would be awesome, because I was confused about that too. I just automatically thought that they were gonna be in the bubble anyways. Also, jump into NBA, which we won't jump to very much, but Canadian boy Jamal Murray, not that long ago, beat the Los Angeles Clippers, which has Kawhi Leonard on it, as Jamal Murray will be going on with the Denver Nuggets to face the Los Angeles Lakers in the conference finals. So if you're a basketball fan, something to watch. Jamal Murray, the next big Canadian boy, I think. And he's fantastic to watch, like, honestly.
Lakers in 5.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, fucking Clippers.
LeBron's running the Lakers to the NBA Finals.
No doubt.
Whether they win against either the Heat or Celtics, I don't know. Celtics have been like really strong defensively, and as there was in past, like obviously last year, the Raptors. I mean, players showed up eventually, like Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam, but they didn't win the NBA Finals and just run the playoffs on offense alone. It was a very defensive team, and the Raptors still are a very defensive team. And so I think the Celtics, if they make it to the NBA Finals, give the Lakers a tough route. But I mean, LeBron just kind of overpowers everyone, anyways. So it'll be interesting to see. Not that we'll talk about it much, but I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I am looking forward to seeing LeBron.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to talk about LeBron going to be smashing everyone. I'm excited to see that, even though it sucks to always see LeBron win all the time. Because we get a kind of a different thing in the NHL where we almost see like all different types of teams win the championships all the time. We don't usually see back-to-backs very often. Anyways, go ahead there, Mark.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I mean, interesting. I mean, I'm not, ever since the, again, I'm feeling really old when I talk about stuff that you guys weren't even, or you were infants when I'm talking about the Grizzlies and stuff. I mean, the Grizzlies were left in Vancouver for a drink of water. It was a whole, so I have not really followed after losing, the Supersonics and the Grizzlies, raised on the coast. I mean, I just felt like, I think I just at some point lost interest, but the point is, so I'm not an NBA expert, but it's good to touch on it, and it's disappointing that Toronto, I mean, I was not a huge Toronto fan, but I was happy to see them win it last year. Disappointing that they couldn't, maybe repeat, but it's a stretch to sometimes see repeats now in modern sports, although it does happen occasionally. Maybe they get a couple back-to-back, like we've seen in the NHL with, I guess, most recently Pittsburgh a few years back. The point is that It's nice to see some other, players that have played their career, such as, the greatest player that should have played in Vancouver, and thank you, Stu Jackson, for not bringing, being sarcastic, bringing Steve Nash. He had an opportunity to bring him from Dallas to Vancouver, didn't. And Steve Nash, I heard a rumor that he might have or might be signing on as the New Jersey Nets new coach, which, he brings some, what I call...
Sorry to laugh so hard. You're so out of the loop that you still call them the New Jersey Nets. They're Brooklyn now.
Oh.
I'm sorry. It's because
I didn't even notice that.
We're talking about how old you are, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, the Brooklyn Nets now.
Ironically, I should find the story. I think that somebody had it as New Jersey, or maybe I just find I say came up on something, and I don't know if it was when I was at work. I saw something on sports. Oh, it might have been on a sidebar on the NHL site, and I swear it said New Jersey, but maybe it said Nets, and that's what comes to mind. Just like if you said Washington. Do you guys remember them as the Bullets?
I've heard of them as the Bullets, and I even had to do like a little spit take. I'm like, wait, they had a different name? They haven't been the Wizards the entire time?
Like I lost track of the thing that happened with what was it? You had the
so the Charlotte Bobcats, right? But then they were the Charlotte so they were the Bobcats, and then you had the New Orleans Hornets, and then they switched. So
it was confusing.
New Orleans switched to the Pelicans, and then Charlotte became the Hornets. They're the Charlotte Hornets.
It was the Hornets, and then I think they lost that franchise. They got a franchise back, and they called them the Bobcats because the Hornets name was gone,
and Michael Jordan owned them.
Yeah, and somewhere in the shuffle, they were able to get the rights to the name back. Just like for example, you talk about team names, like the way Phoenix in the NHL allowed, which really is the Jets franchise, pre-1995, they moved to Phoenix. Well, they allowed that Jets name to go back to what is in Winnipeg now, which was the Atlanta franchise, if you're following the moving, bouncing ball. I mean, it's weird how a name will get attached, just like them or hate them or have any of the history on it. I actually enjoyed the Grizzlies in Vancouver. It was tiring seeing them lose and lose and lose, but I actually saw a couple of their wins in person. I think I saw one or two, and that place was rocking. And I think for all the effort that went into saving that name, it's absolutely stupid. I mean, if NBA was ever to come back to Vancouver, which who knows if it'll happen, well, maybe in your lifetime, I don't know about mine, it could happen. I think that Grizzlies name, because there was so much research in putting that name in, and it was just Vancouver, it was perfect. I think in a way they should allow that name to come back, just like apparently Seattle, they get a team back. They've been able to hold on to the rights to the Supersonics or whatever. So,
I think they took away the Super before they moved away even.
But Memphis has the Grizzlies in it anyway, so unless you were to change Memphis's names to Vancouver.
They would have to make a deal to change it to the Memphis, who knows, the Memphis Blue Notes or something music.
That's too close to St. Louis Blues. You can't do that.
Yeah, did you know they were actually going to make a Saskatchewan team instead of the St. Louis Blues, and they were going to call them I can't remember what they were going to, but it was something near Blue Notes or whatever.
Say, if you look up the history, I don't remember it. Even I don't remember the whole history, but apparently I've heard a few people bring it up that at one point, I know what the joke was. Someone made a joke the other day. They said, apparently St. Louis might have moved to Saskatchewan, but then Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver would have wanted hockey teams too, meaning their teams sucked at the time. It was a bad joke.
Okay, so we're going to get near the end of the podcast, so I want to do one last thing, and that's the predictions for the Tampa Bay versus New York Islanders series, and then whoever you pick for a winner in that series, who will win between Dallas and the team that you picked. So who do you guys, who is your predictions?
Well, Calvin, you can go first if you want.
Okay, sure, Mark. Well, I do think it's quite a big step if we're going to say the Islanders are going to come back and win the series. I still think Tampa Bay, they have 2 more shots at it. They're very strong offensively. Obviously, from what we were watching tonight, it was just one mistake in double overtime. I forget who it was, but it looked like the Tampa defender fumbled the puck, and that was what sprung the 2-on-1 for the Islanders, where Everly put it in to win. So I think Tampa Bay is going to take the series. So obviously that'll mean Tampa Bay Dallas in the finals. Now, who do I think is going to win? It's tough because they're both strong offensively. I'm looking in the top point getters, both defensemen and forwards, stats wise, and Dallas and Tampa Bay both have a couple players in the top 10, and I'm gonna go just I don't. It's tough to say. I'm really thinking hard here. The gears are grinding, but I'm gonna go with Dallas. I think they'll just grind it out. I think Tampa will just be surprised because it doesn't really seem like they've had too many issues so far in these playoffs. Yeah, a couple of their series have gone a little long, but they haven't really faced a tough opponent. And so I think Dallas will give them a run for their money. I hope Dallas comes out as the Cup champions by the end of this.
Should I go next, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's weird. It's weird. It's in terms of I'm gonna. I think. In terms of who you want and who you think's gonna win, I'm gonna go with who I think. I think Tampa's gonna find a way. Just somehow they're gonna dig down, and New York's gonna give them a battle. I don't think it's gonna be like all of a sudden like a shutout loss of like 3-0 or something in the next game, but. I get a feeling Tampa's just going to find a way somehow. The stars will align, no pun intended. My dog's got a toothache and he's barking away when he does something. I don't know what he's doing. That was what you just heard. Going to the vet tomorrow, so I am a good dog owner. Anyways, tangent. The point is, I think Tampa's going to win the series against the Islanders. As for, they've been to the Cup final. They've got the experience. I don't know how many were there in 2015. I had forgotten they got there in 2015. Mind you, that's 5 years ago to the Cup final against Chicago. I'm going to, just because I just have this feeling the way the team has come together, and I haven't read the whole story about, it seems like Dallas has somehow come together. I think they've had to, how the way they've dug down and come back against, they look like they were done and out. And it was going to be a game, 6 against Vegas, and they ended it. I think somehow that right mix, and I know what one of you were saying about Perry. I really don't like Corey Perry either, but I think they've got enough guys there that have been there and enough different experience that they're going to find a way. They're going to win their first cup in over 20 years, and so I'm going to say it's Tampa. And I think I'm, for different reasons or maybe similar, copying what Calvin said, but just by coincidence, I'm going to say Tampa wins that series, moves to the final. Dallas, it's not going to necessarily be a cakewalk, but they're going to get it done, and they're going to hoist the cup second time in franchise history and hold back Tampa. It'll raise questions about, does Tampa, ironically, even though he gets to the Cup final, do they change coaches maybe because he's been there and couldn't get it done? But that's a stretch. I'm just saying I think it'll be Dallas.
All right. Well, now it's time for me, and I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna go with the New York Islanders. I think they're gonna make the goddamn comeback. And I know not very many teams do it, but we've seen the Denver Nuggets just do it not that long ago. We have seen other teams do it, and I think the New York Islanders will be able to pull it off just by the way that they played. And Semyon Varlamov is looking red hot. He shut down the Tampa Bay Lightning, and we all know what the Tampa Bay Lightning are professional as. They like to choke, and we've seen it before with Kucherov, or when they get into a big game situation, Kucherov is never there. And especially in this game, he was not looking as great. He was taking some bad hits, and he looked a little bit groggy. He definitely did not look in that mindset like he wanted to push this team to that Stanley Cup Finals. And if they get Brayden Point back in lineup and Brayden Point's fully healthy and ready to go and doing what he's been doing, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Brayden Point's feeling too well, which is the reason why he missed today's game. I think the New York Islanders, with how good Barzal's been and Eberle getting that overtime winner, I think the New York Islanders are going to push it to a Game 7, and they're going to push it to the Stanley Cup Finals to face the Dallas Stars. Now, for the last one between Islanders and the Dallas Stars, that would be a tough one. But I think I would go with the Islanders, just because of the fact that with how good defensively both the teams are, I think it's going to be a very defensive series if the Islanders and Dallas Stars do go up against each other. But I think I would give the slight edge over to the Islanders, and I think they would be able to win the Cup since Trottier was on the team. So very, very long time for the Islanders, but I believe they will be able to pull off the victory. So that will end things here. Thank you guys very much for listening to the podcast with my buddy Mark Jones and Kelvin. Hector, great guys. Thank you guys for joining the podcast. We'll be doing many more episodes and stuff like that. I don't know when the next one will be. We'll figure that one out. But make sure to check out my Twitter. Also, you can check out Jones's Twitter as well. I'll put that in the link in the description below on the video. And I'll also put mine, and I will announce on my Twitter when we'll be doing the next episode and stuff like that. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys all later. Adios, amigos. Cheers.